The following presentation was recorded live in Las Vegas, Nevada, for the 27th Annual International Association of Square Dance Callers. This is tape 24, Choreo Development.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are most pleased that you've chosen to close out your sessions at this year's CALLERLAB convention by coming to our session on choreographic development. You read on the panel list that we have Kip Garvey and Jerry Story working with us, and Jerry Story wasn't able to make it this year, and we looked around and found the closest substitute that we could. We got the first name right, but the second name was just a little different. We're very pleased to welcome Jerry Justin to our panel. We needed someone with the ability to instantly capture the essence of the 3 months of work that Kip and I put in preparing this, and to join us effectively, and we're very pleased that we found such a person. The subject, choreographic development, and I guess I should mention that I'm Jim Mayo, is an idea that I had. I'm on the executive committee, and they design the convention each year, and I thought that it would be very helpful to have a session with this title. And after we'd identified the title, we sent it out in the usual letter format to the people we wanted to take part, and Kip got his, and it said, "Would you help us with this choreographic development session?" And Kip came back, much of this happened on email, but he came back and explained his understanding of what the word choreographic development, what the words choreographic development meant. And it was totally different from what I had imagined. I had a very clear idea when I used the words choreographic development. I meant the way in which we develop in the dancers the ability to succeed with the choreographic bits, the choreographic patterns that we believed were interesting and that they would enjoy if they could succeed. Kip took the word choreographic development to mean the creation of those choreographic bits and finding or writing the choreography that represented that kind of interest. Two very different understandings of the same two words. Communication is an art. The ability to deal effectively with words is a mystery. Kip has a well-established reputation and well-deserved reputation for using words, particularly mysterious words, in a mysterious way. But I was pleased that he had pointed that out, and as we talked further about it, we decided both of these are correct interpretations and understandings of the meanings of those two words, and so we probably ought to deal with both of them here. And it is our intention to do just exactly that. Whatever you mean by those two words, you have to have a piece of choreography to develop, whether you start with a choreographic idea and build a dance pattern, or whether you have a choreographic idea and want to make an effective presentation to the dancers. Either way, we're talking about interesting choreography. And the first step in choreographic development is to understand what interesting choreographic material is. What do dancers find? What will dancers find interesting? That's a very vague word, and I can't think of anybody better qualified to explain it to us than Kip.
Thank you, Jim. I was, curiously amazed myself when Jim explained to me what he really meant by the choreographic development session and what he had intended. And I don't believe that either one of us was incorrect. That's not the point. The point is that the term choreographic development, as Jim already explained, has different meanings to different people. And of course I asked myself why. Why would it be that way? Well, I think it's a matter of perspective. I spent a lot of time, or at least I did at one point, traveling around the country, dealing with different groups of people, and a lot of them who had perhaps never heard me call. And I had to present an evening's material in a short period of time to people I'd never met. I'm not 100% sure of their capabilities. They told me it's supposed to be this type of a dance program, but you know how that goes. And so I took a different view of what choreographic development meant because it was a different tool for me. I'm also a local caller, and I could appreciate Jim's explanation. Choreographic development is really the development of your dancers, and taking your dancers and allowing them to explore more of what they already know. So you're going to get two different perspectives here, neither one more important or less important than the other, but two different viewpoints. The components of interesting choreography may be one of these, any one of these, or any combination of these. I would suggest that it can't be all of these because some of them conflict with each other that I'm going to list. Familiar calls and formations and arrangements. Okay, you need to start where the dancers are comfortable at. And I believe that we all know, or at least we sense, what that comfort zone is for dancers. We know, for instance, if you're going to call a head square through four hands, you can do-a-do to a wave, you can do a swing through, you can do a boy's run, you can do a Ferris wheel, and you're practically guaranteed of 100% success. I don't think too many people, pretty close. You hope anyway. Some things that will not give you 100% success might be inexperienced dancers like fresh out of a mainstream class or something like that, who are having a difficult time adjusting to your voice or your dialect if you're from a different part of the country. But for the most part, familiar calls, formations, and arrangements is the way you start. It's really important that you understand that you can't come in with this banged-up idea for a great piece of choreography and start so far over the dancers' heads that they have no clue of where you're coming from. It's a building process. Continuous flow. You can't interrupt the dancer's flow. You need to ascertain their ability to move to the calls that they know, and you'll quickly see how they flow. An example of that would be to pick up on styling differences in different localities, and you can pick up on it right away. I was late for a dance, not for anything else except for bad transportation and logistics. I wasn't really late for the dance, but I walked in just when the dance was supposed to start in Huntington, West Virginia one night. And while I was really getting my stuff together, I had a microphone in my hand, a needle went down the record, and I started calling bow to the partner, corners of the hall, and circle to the left, and I wasn't really paying attention to the floor, and I was trying to adjust my briefcase, and I said, Alaman left and the right and left grand, and they gave off such a hoot and a holler in that right and left grand that I darn near dropped the microphone. And that told me, through my experience, that, gee, I'm going to call a lot of that tonight. They're going to do a lot of right and left grands because they just like to rear back, kick it up, let the skirts fly, and do the right and left grand. So this is the type of thing that we determine, and I determine that like in the first 15 seconds of that dance. And when you talk about continuous flow, I'm not going to say like, do an Alaman left, right to you, honey, and box the mat. Because they're going to be doing a right and left grand regardless of what I call. So you have to recognize that patterns have continuous flow based on dancer's experience, whatever that experience is. The movements that are most successful are the ones that involve all 8 dancers. And so if you're developing a piece of choreography, you certainly want to avoid like a 2-dancer call. A 4-dancer call is okay, but if you can build something around an 8-dancer movement with the idea of moving everybody, that is a more successful approach. The dancers have to have a high likelihood of success. All right, so it's not complexity of the choreography that's the key. It's getting them through what they think is complex. All right? It's very subjective, and it has to be designed for the dancers that are in front of you. What does this mean, and how are we going to apply this? And I intend to show you. When I sit down and write a piece of choreography, I'm not satisfied with just one presentation of it. I want to be able to make adjustments in that figure or that routine in anticipation of having dancers of different and varying ability in front of me. I want to be able to say, I want to use this type of call if they can do this, but if they can't do that, then I have to change this figure a little bit so it goes another way. Oh, okay.
I put them back on the chairs in the back, and I see people are sitting on those chairs. Did everybody get the handout? We had a whole bunch of them down in the back there. And, does anybody know what happened to them? There's a whole set of them. The important one is the new one that says handout for choreography development session at the top of it.
Keep my eyes on my fries here. Another thing that you need to know is that different parts of the country, different groups that you deal with, they use sometimes different descriptive identifiers in their choreography. We're going to just continue with the dialogue here only because we happen to be on tape. So, complex interpretations. A complex interpretation means this. You take something that the dancer should know, and you deliver it in such a way that he has to think about it. You change the words around. I'll give you an example in a minute. Uncommon formation and arrangement. That seems to be in conflict with some of the, like the first one, familiar. All right? But it's a combination of sometimes the figures that you use are going to use uncommon formations and arrangements of dancers, and they could be successful too. If you recognize the fact that the whole delivery has to change because you know the dancers are not expecting to be in this particular formation. It's not one that they're normally in. For instance, lines of 3. Okay? And then an unusual and unexpected get out. And as we all stroke our canvas different, as we put our artistry at work here, the trick is to get them out of that thing, not only just before they fail, but when they least expect to get out, and get to a successful corner and that type of thing. So, these are abstract concepts, and what we need is something hard that we can sink our teeth in, and maybe even a technique we can use that when we get home, we can use. I was blessed with a father who, yes, I did have a father.
Oh, I know that.
I was blessed with a father who had some experience overseas in the Pacific running USO shows. So he didn't know a whole lot. He was a square dancer. He didn't know a whole lot about calling, but he certainly knew about entertainment. And one of the principles that he gave me very early in my career was this. There's no such thing as a 3-hour dance. Our dances all ran for 3 hours, our Saturday night dances. He says, Kip, there's no such thing. Your 3-hour dance is a 6-hour dance. Because for every 3 hours that you call a dance, you need to be working something out in an exercise room for an additional 3 hours ahead of time. And the way to do that on a regular basis, to discipline yourself, is to every day you take an hour or 2, every single day, and that time slot is set aside to write choreography or to sit down and work the problem. That was a very helpful advice for me, but it was very difficult to do at first. There were many times when I went down. I happened to work in the basement at that time. We had cellars there in New England. And I would get down and sit in a stool at the bench. Well, what do I do next? I had a tape recorder set up, and there were all the reel-to-reel tape recorders in those days, and I had a whole collection of tapes of callers who had traveled through and given seminars and called dances, and I might sit there for an hour and listen with a pencil and paper in my hand, and we'll get to this aspect too. I was then developing really well somebody else's choreography and enjoying it. And at other times I would sit down with checkers. I had a permanent notebook. But I worked the problem that way. And you have to discipline yourself to do this. If you haven't done something like this yet, you need to do that. You need to do that. Because all the choreographic sessions in the world are not going to help you unless you've developed the discipline for sitting down and working choreography out on your own. So with that in mind, and with that training that my dad allowed me to give myself, I do my best work in the shower, by the way. Ideas seem to pop into my head. And when I have an idea like that, I have to grab a piece of paper. And I write down what I call the nut, which is the basic idea for a choreographic bit that I'm going to use with dancers. It's undeveloped. Now, this particular sequence that you see under Kip's example is really the fully developed idea. The nut of this is a piece of choreography that allows the dancers to arrange themselves any way they want in a squared up set by saying, if you want to, but you don't have to, face your corner and box the net. And at this point, if I then have the heads execute very simply, not for flow now, but just to get the choreographic idea, if I can get the heads to do a partner trade, separate around one to make a line, I'm going to end up with some kinky lines there. All right, it could be all 4 boys on one side, 4 girls on the other. It could be 3 girls and 1 guy. It all depends on who decided to face their corner and box the net. However, I also know that if they square through 4 hands from there, and the centers square through 3 more and the outsides turn around, however those dancers have arranged themselves when they did the original box the net, that total arrangement is still there. And since they only face their corner and box the net, guess who the closest person to them is? The corner. And they can do an Alaman left. Okay? Now, if everybody faces corner and box the net, you get the same answer. If only one couple faces the corner and box the net, you get the same answer. The answer never changes. So here's the idea. You have this little bit of a figure that you would call, and I wouldn't use the California twirl. I decided that what I would use is head square through 3 hands, separate round 1, make a line. Forward and back, square through 4 hands. Center square through 3 more. Outsides turn around, Alaman left. Now some of the Alaman lefts are going to be, like full turns, and some are going to be quarter turns, depending on who did the box the net and who didn't. Yeah, but the idea is it's going to be their corner. Now to play on the whole theme, I'm going to tell them, I've got a figure that no one in this room is going to mess up. You cannot mess up this figure. This figure is something that everybody's going to be able to do. And furthermore, I don't even care how you do it. You will still do it. And it sounds like a little challenge, It's a little game you're playing. So give me a square up here, if you don't mind. I'd like to have a square. And we'll set it up here a little bit on this side here, Doug. And we'll show you just basically how this piece of choreography works. And then we'll show you how you develop this for various situations. Okay. 4 couples in a square. Okay. So those of you who like to, pick corners and so on, we got a real easy thing here with it. Nice. I love this square, boy. So go ahead and do it. I think that you see this is going to work. Now, if you want to, but you don't have to, face your corner and box the net. You're done. Square your set just like that. And let's have the head square through 3 hands. Yeah. Separate around 1. You've got a line. Now, it just so happens that this particular formation arrangement left me with this non-symmetrical thing with 4 boys on one side, 4 girls on the other. You could get a different answer depending on who boxed the net with the corner. Square through 4 hands. Center square through 3 more. And the others turn around. Alaman left for the old left hand. Come back and square your set. Okay? Now let's try it this way. Let's do that one more time, guys, because I'm not convinced that you're sure that you cannot mess this up. Face your corner and box the net. Everybody. Now, if you want to, but you don't have to, box it back. And square your set regardless of what you got. Those in a side position, square through 3. Separate, round 1. Here's a line. Square through 4. Centers, square through 3. Outsides, turn around. Oh, man, left with the old left hand. Come on back and square your set. All right? Now, that's the basic idea. And the way I chose to present this is a little bit of a challenge to the dancers to say, I've got something that you're not going to be able to mess this up, man. I don't care what you do. You're not going to mess this up. And then I found myself in big trouble when I ran to club to do this. Somebody messed it up. And the reason they messed it up was because they couldn't square the set after they did the box the net. And I oh man! And I said, why didn't I think of that? They're going to have a problem with that. I got this type of thing. When I say square the set, I want you to go home instead. If you want to, face your corner and box the net. Now square your set. That's what I got. You know. And by the way, the figure will still work from here. Okay? It's a lot easier from here. And everything remains, it comes out normally arranged and so on, and it works out just as well from here as it would from any place else. But the idea is that the other people in the square who didn't do the box and that thing saw the folks over there going back home, and they said, no, he meant over here. And the next thing you know, I've gone on with calling, and I've dropped them. I've lost them. All right? Okay. So, we know that this figure will work, and we also know that if you have patience and you deliver it correctly to these dancers, you've got a nice little pure basic figure here. This is nothing but basic calls. All right? Box and that basic still.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Can I just make a comment on
Sure.
this? If you want to, face your corner, box the net. All right. If you did, let go of hands. Everybody square your sets where you are. So that I helped them get into that spot. If I saw that coming, once Kip saw that, I bet you that's what he did the next time.
Oh, yeah, you bet. And these are the little adjustments you make. And by the way, I need to let you know also that I said I took it to my club and tried it. I never take anything out on the road unless I've tried it with my home group first. All right?
Those in the side position, square through 3. Separate and go around 1, make a line. Everybody square through 4. Center, square through 3. The others do a U-turn back. Everybody either do a big element left or a little element left. Look for your partner in a right and left grand. Go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. And the moral of this story is that a little allemande is better than no allemande at all. Promenade home.
There you go. All right, now expanding on this idea, because you know this is basic calls and it works out well that way. But sometimes you'll get the floors that'll just waltz through this, and the next thing you know, this whole shtick that you've developed has lasted, 30 seconds, and it's seemingly done. Where can we put some additional spice into this figure in case we have one of those floors? Well, we know that part of the figure, we're just going to take each part of this figure. The second part, you don't have it in front of you, I don't believe. You have the net result in front of you. But the second part of this figure, as we gave it to you, was once they've done the box and that and squared the set, the heads square through 3, and they separate and they go around 1. The question is, how else can I get them there? What equivalent can I use to get them there? Right and left through, pass through, separate, round 1. Okay. Pardon me?
Might be a he, she, right and left through.
Yeah, that's a problem. Promenade half, down the middle, pass through, separate, round 1. Okay, good. Yeah, we have to be a little bit careful with right and left through with basic and mainstream because we do have a stipulation about the courtesy turn. So, meaning that a man has to turn a woman. So therefore, I kind of like the promenade half, down the middle, pass through, separate, round 1. But there's another way, and it's kind of neat. But you have to build on it. It came to me that they could pass through, whoever's active, separate and go around 3 and get to the exact same place. And the first time I called it with my club this way, I realized I had a problem. Having dancers pass through and separate, go around 3 is problematic. All right? So, and the reason it's problematic is because they don't know where 3 is. Now, the people who are active walking around the outside are passing so many people, they lose track. Why? Because they're passing each other, too. And they don't know whether or not they should count each other as they're going around. Watch how this works first. Heads, pass through, separate, go around 3. Keep going, keep going, keep going, and around 1, and make a line. It's a long trip, all right?
Oh, that's what you meant.
but they get there. Now do me a favor and square your set. And, you know, here we have a square of callers who, you know, the question, you could see it, they popped in their minds, have I lost track of my count here? What's going on? So if I'm going to use this, I have to build on it, just to get them to go around 3. And you're getting awful excited about my figure, buddy. let me show them what I do, and then you can. They're anxious to hear it, though. I know they are. Have the heads pass through, separate, go around one, make a line. Okay, star through, zoom, pass through, Alaman left. Come back, promenade home. Okay, what did I do? Well, just what they always do, because that's an abiding principle of developing choreography is start with what they know and go from there. Okay, heads pass through, separate, go around two. Who are you counting when you go around two, guys? Make a line. Yeah. Box the gnats. Slide through. Alley manned. Come back, square your sets. Now, heads pass through. Separate, go around three. Keep going. Keep going. Your third one is a same-sex person. Keep going. You have to end up in the middle. Lines forward and back. Star through. Zoom. Center square through three. Alaman left. Okay, now, by the way, you're saying, well, you know, this little idea is turning into a whole tip. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the point. And now, face your corner, if you want to. Face your corner and box the gnat. If you are unsure, box it back. If you don't want to do that, you can face your corner and box your gnat now. If you don't want to do that, sides go forward and back. Pass through. Separate, go around three. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Get into the middle. Lines go up and back. Square through four. Hello. Center square through three more. The others turn back, and Alaman left. Square your set, and there you go. All right. Okay. I like it so far. I said to myself, maybe the dancers won't, but so far I got something cooking here. So now my next question to me was, Kip, what else can you replace in this call? Suppose you have a plus floor. All right. I'm out at a plus dance, and I do a lot of those. What can be replaced? What part of this figure can be replaced without destroying the whole gestalt of the figure and is not too complex? And I said to myself, the square through four. Give me a plus equivalent, or even a mainstream equivalent, if you will, of square through four. What can I call that'll give me the same result as a square through four? Anybody want to volunteer? Square through three and partner tag. I'm going to walk away from that one just for the time being. How about another one? Star through California twirl works fine, but it's sex dependent, isn't it? All right. Any star through figure is going to be sex dependent, and I know that I'm not I got to leave sex out of this one because they're going to be arranged all different kinds of ways. Touch and quarter and walk and dodge is not really going to give me a square through four. Okay, that'll work. Don't do it, guys. But I think he said pass the ocean, centers trade, recycle, and pass through. All right. I like it, but it's a bit wordy. Can we pare it down? How about this? How about fan the top, recycle, pass through? Same idea. Flutter wheel, sweep a quarter, pass through. Okay? All of those equivalents will work. And what we need to do is to put that in the place of the square through four. And the net result looks something like this. And it could be a mess. And I'll tell you why it could be a mess. Because you're going to call fan the top from facing couples in lines. Caution, red flag. If you didn't have a red flag go up, let me tell you, hoist it high. And you're also going to be doing a fan the top from strange arrangements of facing couples. Okay? So I might even precede this whole delivery by making sure they can separate, go around one, separate, go around two, separate, go around three, and they can fan the top. And they can recycle from a half wave if needed. So I might, in building a whole tip, I might call different sequences that solve each one of those problems before I get to the heart or the meat of this developed figure. And the net result will look something like this. If you want to, but you don't have to, face your corner and box the net. Doug, you've never wanted to. Why don't you change your mind? There you go. And yada, 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 yada. Play with them a little bit. Are you sure about that decision? Because you don't have to worry. You're not going to mess this up. Would you like to box it back? If so, go ahead. You know. And then you say, heads pass through. Those in the head position pass through, separate, go around 3. Let's count them, folks. 1, 2. That's only 2. You got me one more. Please, you get in the middle of that line and go up and back. Okay? Fan the top. Recycle. Pass through. Square through 3. Outsides. Turn around. Element left with the old left hand. You come on back and square your set. Now that's the end of my particular presentation. And I want you to know I didn't do this in the 15 or 20 minutes it took me to explain it. This thing was actually developed over several weeks, because every time I had a new idea to add to it, I had to take it to my club, try it with them, and see what happens. And so I think Jerry wants to add something to that, but I'm not sure. Do you need the square?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And the reason I was excited about it was I liked it. I learned something too. And I seen something as he was going on it, and that's where it's kind of neat when you see what all the work he did to get to this spot. Now I just have to take this little spot and change it a little bit more, or a different way to maybe lead in. I think that we need to make sure that we knew what happened here in the one square that is recognized to everybody here. That square through 4 from any positions is going to be tough. Be aware of that. If you're going to get to that spot, we probably should have done just 4 people squaring through from a different position than normal before you get to the other part. Now, we had trouble with the separate and go around 3. I would like to do it this way first. Heads, go forward, face your corner. And I might call it that way just to do it anyway. Touch a quarter, check a wave. Centers trade, centers run, Ferris wheel. Boys pass through. And I'm working with the same sex at this point because I can help them easier than I can help somebody who isn't the same sex. I can't say you and you and you and you. Boys, and I'm going to start with not a separate. I'm going to start with something easier to count. I'm going to say, boys, split the girls. Go around 3. Let's count them now. Pass 1. Keep going. Girls slide together. 2. Keep going, boys. Right to the end. Make your line. Now, it was easier, a little bit easier, because the hard part was early in the setup. Everybody, you understand what I'm saying on that? Good. Nobody said a word. Pass through. Tag the line. All right. Girls, do a U-turn back. Good. Everybody, circle 4 halfway. Veer to the left. Ferris wheel. Boys, sweep a quarter. Now I'm going to go to the girls. Girls, pass through. Separate. Go around 3. Count them. 2. Keep going. Squeeze in there, boys. You're going to help them. By that time, they're helping. And so I looked at it a little differently, that I figure I could get a higher success rate by by having the same sex do it at that point. That's why I would do that. Okay? Go ahead and square it up for a second. One more thing on that. And I thought the split was easier. It depends what you've been calling. If you've been calling separates, the separate will be easier. If you use splits, somebody, I think that's easier to start with for going bigger numbers, and you would work your way up. I'm going to do the call without the first part, because I saw something that was kind of neat there. Heads, square through 3. Separate, go around 1, make a line. Now, this is the spot I'm worried about, is the square through here, and I would have worked real hard to get so I wouldn't have to worry at that point. Square through 4. I think this will work. Do it? I don't know if I want to do that. You think I should? I would have led into this a little different, but okay, I see what I've got here now. So you see what you got? You do? Okay, this would be taking it that other step. All right, centers, square through. On the third hand, everybody do a right or left grand. Start with your partner. Go. Right. Now, okay, I was wrong. I stopped it. I stopped. I didn't turn them around. But I didn't want to. No, I saw something, and I'm in the wrong position. I'm in the wrong position for it. Kip, you saw something there. You were going to say go ahead. Okay, we could just back up to the square through right there. But that wasn't what in my mind, I saw something I wanted otherwise, and I was just working off the cuff on it. Center, square through 3. The others do a U-turn back. Element left. Look for your partner. Square your sets. So it was all a short element left at that point. So I erased a little spot there, but it was all short one, and it was sort of supposed to be original. No, I mean normal. Thank you. Go sit down.
Thank you, Square. Joe, you got a question? Questions have got to be on the microphone.
When the people are facing out, they would have a tendency when they're there to all do a partner trade. How do you prevent that?
You have to trust them.
Yeah.
First of all, I don't anticipate that as being a major problem. All right. Sometimes you can have the outsides turn them back first before you have the center square through 3. I've never had to do that, but shooting from the hip here a little bit, I think I might deliver it that way. So you would say square through 4. If you're looking out, turn around, center square through 3. Okay. I mean, if you have a situation where people are truly uncomfortable facing out, and we do have that, that would be one way to resolve it.
One other point there is that we're dealing with a group of dancers that we're going to expect to be able to do a square through from a mixed sex or half sashayed position. Dancers who are able to do that are quite likely not to turn around. That's a combination of skills. Note that the top of the handout has a paragraph up there which says your panelists agree that the best dancing experience is the result of good flowing choreography that uses the most basic calls in a variety of formations and arrangements. This choreography should provide a high level of success from most of the dancers most of the time. The use of unusual choreographic bits should add spice. Be very careful that the spice doesn't take the place of the beat and potatoes in an evening of dancing. We are showing things that are the spice. Don't try to do this kind of thing in every tip. Also note that this is not something that is sight called. We're talking modules here. We're talking preparation. Kip told you how long it takes to get through the stages of this kind of an interaction, and Jerry demonstrated what happens if, without preparation, you try to fix it. We all have that experience because we see something that somebody's doing and we say, hey, I'm going to work with that. If you don't take it home and do your checkers and work out the details and understand how that choreography works, you are at high risk of doing that kind of thing at a dance. Now, here we're among friends and we're trying to illustrate a process. I think we've provided a valuable illustration, for one, and the additional experience of watching the way we developed this one idea is what we hope this session will convey to you.
I'll tell you what, Jim's moderating, but I'll make the suggestion. If you have a point you'd like to make, work your way over here and just kind of stand so you have the microphone handy, and then we won't have any dead air space in the tape. The point I want to make is this. There's a temptation here for us to take this piece of paper home, lay it on a table at a dance next week, and try to call it. Don't do that. Please. The first thing I want you to do is to eliminate that pass through, separate, go around 3, and go back to the original figure. The original figure that we gave you was those in the head position or side position, square through 3, separate, go around 1 to a line. If you're going to play with this thing, play with it that way first. All right? Don't go all the way to advanced calculus to learn how to do basic math. All right? Give yourself a chance to succeed. Just like you want the dancers to succeed, we probably want ourselves to succeed too. Okay.
The other thing I took out of what you, Kenny Ferris from Laurel, Maryland, out of what you've given us was, if you just if you want to face your corner and box the net, you can basically do anything that the dancers will do, you'll end up, if you're going to end up with an element left, because you could go back to your original head square through 4, swing through, centers run, Ferris wheel, pass through, and take that basic figure, and now it's a little more exciting because you did that box and that thing.
But do remember that you've got half sashayed couples and that you can't call sexy calls.
Right. No start hands, sight line.
And don't try to sight call it. Okay, one more quick question, then we'll move on.
Joe Hartman from Arizona. I think your wording, because I use a lot of this, and sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. And I think your wording is real important. If you say the right things at the right time, they're going to get it.
That's exactly what Jerry's going to talk about in his segment of this presentation.
And we say don't sight call this, and we haven't given you a reason. The reason is very evident to us, but it might not be that evident to you. If you have more than, like, let's say 10, 12 squares in the floor, they're going to be different. They're all going to look different because all of them didn't face the corner and box the net the exact same way. So you try to sight call your way out of that, it's time for a coffee break. Pray for an earthquake. Do anything. But
Okay, the next thing we want to say is working on how do you work with material that you research from others, whether that be in print or at a dance or because somebody gave you a good idea. I suspect many of you have used a double pass-through setup, centers right and left through, veer left, veer right, swing through. I was writing a document, and Lorenz Cooley over in Germany was running the checking the choreography for me, and he came back and he said, you know, that would be a lot smoother if you did a left swing through there. And sure enough, he's right. I then had this good idea. From a double pass-through setup, I do a right and left through, veer left, veer right, left swing through. And I wanted to find a way to use it so that dancers would be able to succeed, to set that up. And the example that I've got in there is the result of my taking the one idea. He didn't give me a figure. He didn't give me a whole pattern that went all the way from beginning to end, a module that I could memorize. He gave me just one piece of choreography that appeared to me to be very smooth. And so I then went back with my checkers, and in fact I don't use checkers, I use diagrams. Some of you may have... Old habits are hard to go. And I have many good reasons for using diagrams. I don't know how many of you know the system of diagramming that J. King invented. A lot of callers learned the J. King system. But it allows you to put down a piece of paper the steps of a dance pattern. And the nice thing for me is that when I get done, I've got the piece of paper in my hand. If I do it with the checkers, the pattern's gone as soon as I've worked it out. With checkers, and I come out wrong, I can go back and find out where the mistake was. I can figure out where the best place to put a lady's chain in to fix the outcome. So I prefer diagrams. I also worked full-time, and I could sit there with a pencil and a piece of paper working away at my desk, and the boss didn't really know that I wasn't working on company business. Fortunately, I'm now retired, so it's not going to be an issue when he gets the tape. The pattern that you have there is the one that I came up with, that I figured I could get dancers through. It does use a Dixie style, and not every group that I call for will wade easily into a Dixie style. And so before I use this pattern at a dance, I'm going to verify that these dancers are able to successfully accomplish a Dixie style to an ocean wave. It's not guaranteed. If they can't, then either I have to lead them into being able to accomplish that, or I have to forget this figure. If they can do that, I have gone on, as Kip has, and we don't have it here, but another variation that works out very nicely, I think I can remember it, if you just start from your basic square and have the heads star through to set up that double pass through, the right and left through, veer left, veer right, left swing through, and just the girls scoop back. For them it's a right-handed scoop back, and there's a fighting chance. Then everybody scoot back. That one's left-handed and it's less of a chance. Will lead you to an Allemande left also. It's possible to extend the use of one small choreographic idea into a variety of additional patterns, much the same way that Kip did. Kip was creating his. I was capturing just one small idea and working it out in advance to know where the difficult spots for the dancers would come, what I had to check out before I used it in order to be sure that they could do it successfully. The best choreographic, exciting routine isn't worth anything if they don't make it, if they don't succeed. And if there's one message we want to leave with you is that the development has to go on in your home, in your preparation. You have to develop your familiarity with the choreography, look for the trouble spots, find ways to make the dancers succeed with them, and take all of that to the dance. The best, exciting, varied choreographic bits are not going to be sight called. They're going to be modules that you have acquired somewhere, that you've worked on and developed very carefully, and that you use with great understanding. If there's one message we would like to send home with you out of this session, that's it. The next stage after all of this is how to use your experience, your knowledge, your skills to enable dancers to accomplish routines that they could not do if you just went home and called it off the page. And to cover that section of things, we're going to ask the new Jerry Justin, not Jerry Story, who addressed that subject. One little thing that Jerry pointed out that I want to call to your attention again. The first time Kip used his pattern, he said heads pass through, and Jerry stepped in and said those in the head position. That's a point, an important point that we don't have. I don't think it appears anywhere in our manuals. Yet we're working on it, but there is a rule known to old fogies that says once the men have taken their place in the square, you cannot permanently change their place. You cannot turn a number one man into a number two man. That's not in the power of the caller. You can temporarily have them take a position, but a number one man in a square is a number one man throughout that square. And so correctly you must direct those in the head position, because it might be a side man. And it's a fine point, but it's also one, to sneak into the subject of teaching, that is worth pointing out to our dancers in our classes. But to take on the next stage of, after we've got all this wonderful choreography, how do we get them through it? Ladies and gentlemen, Jerry Justin. And we might point out that Jerry Justin, our famous Canadian friend, has just become a U.S. citizen. Another taxpayer.
That's a whole nother story, too. Yeah, that's right.
Jerry story. Oh.
Whatever you can do to get the people through it. Now you understand what you're going to do. You need to do everything in your power to get them to do it. And I like to do it like a lead up. And can I get a square up again real quick? And I want to do something with the music. I want to do a little bit of a patter tip here. And then I want you to think about what I'm doing here, or what I started on. I'm going to theme this a little bit. Yeah, I see we're in a different position now. Thank you for helping me. Okay. All right. Have a good look at your corner. Tell them how good you are. So much. All right. 8 to the middle, and you come right back. Walk around your corner, and a do paso. Her by the Corner by the, partner by the left, what do you do? Courtesy turn, you're all squared up. I wanted to make sure we had that. Heads, right or left through and turn. Half sachet. Slide through. Right or left through the outside. Turner. Half sachet. Now pass through. Do paso. Corner by the right. Partner left. What do you do? You're all squared up at home. Very good. Sides lead to the right. Veer to the left. Couples trade. Bend the line. Right or left through and you turn them. Now pass through. Do a partner trade. And a do paso. Partner left. Corner by the partner left. What do you do? We're back in lines of 4. Up to the middle and you come right back. Fortunately, and you'll have 12 squares out there, you'll say, fortunately, it doesn't matter which way the lines are. Touch a quarter. Circulate one spot. Boy, run around a girl. Alamana left with a corner. Touch a quarter when you get there. Boy, run around the girl. Circle right 1/4. Enter right or left grand. When you meet, should be home. Good. We'll do one more. Now, take it. If I'd have walked in on that, just take the music off just for a second. If I'd have walked in and started to called the do paso from the lines after the partner trade, cold, I probably would have lost them, first of all, because I didn't check to see if they were going to do a courtesy turn at the end to start with. So that's where I started with it. And I started with it from a most comfortable position I could. I had them walk around their corner. So we started with something very comfortable. They went up to the middle back, walk around your corner, do paso. And I helped them by using my voice. And I asked them the question. I said, turn your partner by the, and they started to answer me as we did, corner by the. And then I even helped them a little more. I said, partner left, what do you do? And you'll see, if they're not used to doing the courtesy turn, you'll see a bunch of thars. And I'll say, whoa, you're home. And then so you may have to go back and do that again. From another, just a normal do paso until they get used to just doing the courtesy turn. Then I took it a step farther. I took them into the box position. Everybody was half sashayed. I did a pass through so that your partner was either right in front of you or beside you. So that was the only choice they had to do a do paso. The other choice they had was which hands to use. And we had one that still had to choose on the hands. And again, I helped them again. Got him back into the lines, and we did a partner trade after that because you were looking out. And I had to cue right ahead. As soon as I did the partner trade, if I would have waited any longer for them to complete that, their motion would have been back towards the other people on the other side. So before they finished the partner trade, I said do paso and partner by the, and I helped them at that point because I wanted them to know that they had to look for their partner. They did a partner trade, and it was with their partner. And so I was helping them every way I can. If I'd have backed off with just the timing, just a touch, I would have not been helping them and I'd have blown the floor. And I wouldn't have been fair to those people to even have called that move. Now I'm going to go one little step farther at this point. I got to make sure I got to know who my corners, my partners are. Okay, I need music on again just for a second. This would be taking it to the next step. Heads past the ocean. Extend. Swing through. Girls circulate. Boy trade. Boy run around a girl. Bend the line. Enter right or left through. Turner. Dixie style. Make an ocean wave. Good. Boy trade. Girls circulate. Left swing through. Boys trade. Girls trade. Girls circulate. Girls trade. I'm just getting to this spot because I had it written down, but I didn't do it. Everybody's with their partner with their left hand right now? Okay. Now, I would have come into this position here. After the girls trade, do paso. Partner left. Corner by the. Partner left. What do you do? Roll promenade. Promenader. Give them time. They were in the courtesy turn, and it was the first time I didn't want them to complete the courtesy turn. We went right back into a roll promenade. Thank you, Square. So I took a simple move that I wasn't sure that everybody knew the ending on, because we don't use the ending real well all the time, and went in and used that, and I might have themed the whole tip on that. Might have themed the whole tip. I might even have gone back if they needed the other practice. If they hadn't done the courtesy turn, and I'd had thars, I think I would have had the four ladies chain and send them back do paso, because that's one of the ones that they will do again, and give them that chance to not go to a thar at that point. So it's important that you understand where the problem is going to be before you call it. If you don't know where the problem is going to be, you're going to have trouble getting the dancers to go through those trouble spots. And you can't just do it off the top of your head. You've got to be prepared for that and watching the whole floor. And if you're not sure and you want the 100% success, then you're going to have to use those cue words. Now, you may walk into a place where I've been to a couple of places where they know I'm coming, and the caller has a dance the night before to do what I'm going to call, to teach what I'm going to call. And so I sort of get the feeling right away when they don't have any problem with the first thing I do, and I think, well, going to have to do some little different thing here. So then I might walk into it a little quicker at that point. I wanted to make it fit into my program. I probably would not do that at a advanced dance. I probably wouldn't do it at an advanced dance. I might do it at a plus dance, but I'd be very careful and very cautious that to let the dancers understand that I want them to still win, and that I'm using the other part of the plus list that they don't get at a plus dance, the basics, and without ever telling them that. I wouldn't use it a lot, but I might theme or use a start of a tip with something like that later in the night again, with just a little switch and no cues then, so that I've given them and helped them and coaxed them, and they saw something brand new and they got out of it and they thought, hey, that was neat. And then 2 or 3 tips later, I'm going to come back and I'm going to start in almost identical, if not identical, and no cues, no helps. And then until they just get into the line and say, up to the middle and back, and you just see the smiles on their faces because they remembered it from 3 tips ago. And you've given them a winner. They've learned something new that night, and they're going to remember you, and they're going to remember the dance because of that. I wouldn't start with it right away early. I'd start because you want to have them comfortable. Even with starting the first tip here, do you notice what I did with my voice? I talked to them before we started to call. I told them to look at their corner and do something. They were kind of a bunch of callers who didn't want to do that, so they stood there. But your dancers are going to say something. Even if they look over there, I just want them to know who their corner is. And at that point, I can see how they hear my voice. I don't have to say, can you hear me out there? I know they can hear me. And then I started off with the up to the middle and back. And that was a timing tool to get the dancers in with the music, on the beat. Now, so I started the time, walk around your corner. Then I helped them, and everything was smooth at that point. And had they gone into the Alamandar, and I'm watching them real close, I would have given the courtesy turn command earlier and say, you're home, don't go. I wouldn't let them drag themselves in there and get hurt. But I wanted to watch to make sure they're doing that. I did it by parts, and then we did the final routine, and we did the routine later on in the night. I think that I've covered most of that. And you can do that with anything. But again, it goes back to the first part where the tip said, you got to work on it, test it, and then go out and change it, make it work, polish it up, and then make some variations. Every time I have used this, when I started using this do paso thing, I add another thing in my mind. I see something out there that's going to do it. But I call a lot, so I wasn't working on it. I see the things coming in, I get another idea. And because I don't have days off most of the time, because I do 600 sessions a year, that I use them at workshops sometimes. I do that little thing at workshop and extend it as a little break, a little breather from the teaching mode, and I can get away with it, or I know that it's going to work. But the basic thing, I didn't just go out and do on the floor. And if you're working with the same people, a home caller is the hardest job, because he's going to have the same people there at least once a week, and you can't do that every week. You can't do that call every week because it's no longer a gimmick. It's no longer fun. But if you've done it enough that they can do a do paso properly, you're a winner on that one too.
Jerry, can I just step into that? Speaking as a home caller, you're right that you can't do the same thing over week after week, but you cannot give them the whole joke on the first night and stretch the development of this idea over several weeks. Don't give them the whole bit that you've worked out on one night. There's no need to give them that much to make that night exciting. Give them the lead in. They'll remember next week, some of them. Some will be there for the first time, so that you can stretch the use of this choreographic bit over an extended period of time as a home caller, as opposed to you can do it all in one tip. If you're up on the stage with a festival, then it works either way. What we're talking about here is programming. Kip also wanted to add a comment.
It's important if you're using something like this that you have the bailout points. You have to know when to bail out. This is a single idea that was developed. The purpose of it is to have a unique gimmick tip. It's just a gimmick, okay? There is no need for you to struggle to get the floor through this thing when there is no way the floor is going to get through it. You need to be able to recognize, for instance, that this floor is just not going to really like this as much as you do, and you need to get out. And so, like for instance, with this particular figure, I know that the toughest part of this figure right off the bat, in its purest form, not with the separator around 3 or anything like that, but in its purest, simplest form, is doing a square through from other than normally arranged facing couples. That's really the toughest part. So I might have a floor in front of me that I think is probably capable of doing this, and I might start out a tip by calling heads do a half sachet and square through 4 just to see if they can do that. Now, if I lose half the floor or something on that, I'm bailing, all right? I'm not going to insist on doing this clever little gimmick at that point. I'm out of there. I'm on to something else, all right? I try to get them back into their comfort zone as quickly as I can, and this whole little gimmick is now back on the shelf for another night, all right? Not with this group. If I have trouble with them separating and going around 1 and making a line, and then I said separate, go around 2, and they have problems with that for any reason, I could bail. I could bail real easy at that point and not have anything to worry about. I might not bail at that point because I have alternatives, and that's the whole thing about developing the whole concept, is to give yourselves alternatives and rather than just bail out. Sometimes that's not too graceful either. And we know that the alternative for the pass-through separate round 3 routine is a square through 3, and I just might use that, but only if I've already tested the waters. Another expansion on the get out is having the centers do a left square through 4 while the outside's cloverleaf. Okay? Just wrote that right as we were sitting here. But that precludes having the line of 4 square through 4 because you have a hand usage problem. So when you get to the line of 4, once you get to the line of 4, have the center 4, instead of having the center 4 do a square through 3 and the outsides turn back, have the centers do a left square through. That won't work. Won't work. All right. Back the tape up. No.
There's another example of not doing your homework.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We want to show you all aspects of this, including the wrong aspect.
The point that we have made successfully, I hope, is that when you're working with unusual choreography, you don't do it on the spot. You work it out at home before you get there. It is a crucial element to all of this stuff. It's not sight called. We're talking here about modules that you have worked out very carefully to be sure that you know where the trouble spots are and how you're going to help the dancers get through that. If we've come pretty much to the end of our presentation, if I may just hold you off for a second, one of the things I want to point out is that whenever we start talking about choreography, we cannot help but get to other aspects of the technology of calling. We've said quite a lot about programming here, about planning the use of this kind of material, spreading it through an evening or over a season or a few weeks in a club. Kip could not talk about this choreographic bit that he had without telling you the showmanship bits that he puts in with it. It's not enough just to call the choreography. He teases them a little bit with the way he sets it up, and that's the showmanship angle of it. All of these things are part of the calling trade skills. Recognize that, well, either of these gentlemen stand up on the stage and start laying out magnificent choreography and beautiful showmanship bits. They are not casual accidental, we do them just now. They've worked them very carefully, and if there's one message we can send out of this session, we'd like to urge you to, anytime you're using unusual choreography, plan it, work it, study it, understand it, know it, and try your very best to see that the dancers win. Doug, you're next. Then you'll have to give the microphone back to me.
I know
Sorry.
he's reaching for it already. I'm Doug Bennett from Dallas, Texas. When does the creative choreography, the gimmickry, you can't make a whole dance out of that. You can make one tip, maybe two tips, and I would like to, ask you guys what you think. When does gimmickry become too much?
Interesting and a valid question, too. First of all, let me say that this has to be polished. This routine has to be done in one tip. And if you do all the exercises that we've shown you here, trying to get people to a point where you can do this clever little gimmick, you'll go through that hoedown about 5 times. And your tip now is stretched out to about 40 minutes. Unacceptable. All right? You need to have this thing polished to a point where you can get it delivered as a gimmick inside one tip, which means to me no more than twice through a hoedown record. That's the tip. And this is a little bit of frosting that's laid in that tip someplace. So you don't have a whole lot of time to make these decisions and so on. And that's again, why the bail points are so important. Because if you can't get super involved in this thing and have those people on the floor for 20 minutes trying to get them to do a square through. All right? And the other aspect is, I think most of the guys who travel like to have one little piece of spice or two. Well, we have an arsenal, actually. We got a whole back pocket full of them. And myself, I like to lay this down someplace around the 3rd or 4th tip. And that'll be the only one that I'll use for that group that night if it's successful. All right? I might not use any. The rest of the dance is going to be more or less a standard type of hoedown, using some other material. If that answers your question. But this is only one out of a lot of different gimmicks that we use. And we have... Go ahead, Jerry. Sorry.
Just to follow up what Jim said, and I want to reiterate that for the guy, the local caller, to take this one little move home that Kip did, this one little sequence here, could give you 4 weeks of dances to even get to it. And gives you a great programming and theming tool. And but I want to also remember that you got to understand why the people are on the floor first, and it's to have a good time. And if they aren't going to have a good time scoring through from a different position, then that's not the group to call it at. That's not even no use even working it. It's not worth the time. But it does give you some ideas for theming in that. And I know that what we've talked about is a one tip gimmick type choreography. Before we go, I'd like to get a square up one more time, and I want to show you some that is not really gimmick, but it's something you can build on a whole night or a whole month. I want to show you so that it's not necessarily a one-time gimmick, but it's not a sequence, but it's a theme that you can use.
Terry Lewis from Nova Scotia, Canada. Am I gonna miss you, or are you both citizenships in both countries now? Okay. So he's both now, so he can go back and forth across the border without any problem now. So.
Yes, your question.
In the development of calling, how soon should we try to do this type of gimmick stuff? What's the fundamentals that maybe people pass by to try to do this kind of thing? If they can't recognize an element left sometime in patter and start going into this type of thing, I think sometimes we go too fast and get into this gimmick and then can't sing a tune.
You're absolutely right. Let me say that one of the handouts that we have here is the call analysis sheet. It provides a framework on which to understand each of the calls that you use. It asks, how does it start? What hands are available? What's the flow? And all of that information. It is essential for any caller who wants to cite call to know the formation and arrangement consequences of every call they use in every setup that they use them in. That's the beginning point. Until you can do that, you really aren't prepared to do sight calling, and you might work these modules, but the essential point that we've been trying to make with all of this talk today is that you must understand what the setup is after each phase of this call. You need to be able to visualize it, to know when the square throughs are different arrangements, where the trouble points are going to be, that the element left will be short for some and long for others. All of those things you have to understand if you are going to use this kind of material successfully. So the answer to your question I would give is that you first must understand the information on the call analysis sheet about every call you use in every setup that you use it in before you start messing around with unusual choreography. The nice part about it is that most dancers will be very happy dancing the most basic calls in a variety of formations and arrangements. You don't need this kind of stuff to entertain most of our home club floors. When you get some, they're fun to use, and the dancers will enjoy them if you use them well. But don't rush.
Maybe it was unfortunate that we chose a gimmick to show how things are developed. In reality, we've done the homework. We've done our part. We're not preaching to you. We're just trying to share this experience with you. Take that mainstream list, start at the very beginning, and see how many things you can do with those calls. All right? That's the way these things are developed to begin with. Take circle. Can we have two people circle at basic and not be in violation of our single circle of an ocean wave thing? Yet the answer is yes. And can you develop some choreography around circle? Now, circle's the first call on the list, I do believe. All right? Can we take two people and say, circle left halfway around? And if we do, what do we do after that? Do we have to make a wave? No. Can we have them circle halfway around to a do-si-do? Man, that's a lot of overflow. Don't like it. How about circle halfway around to a box the nat? Circle halfway around to a slide-through? Circle halfway around to a pass-through? How about circling right? Oh, that's interesting. Now you can't do the slide-through, all right? But can you do something else with your left hand? All right? You see what I mean? So don't just start glancing down the list of calls. Yeah, circle, yeah, do-si-do, yeah. Stop at each one and say, for the next half hour, I'm going to explore this darn circle and see if I can make it work somehow different from what it says here. Because on that piece of paper, it's very one-dimensional. Circle, all right? That's home development for your home program. That's really, really good development because you've got to call to people, and I do too, every week. And every week you walk in there, you do not want to run the risk of calling the same dance week after week after week. Scarfing down a semi-cold pizza, rushing off to the dance, doing your 2-hour gig, jumping back in the car so you're in time for the 11 o'clock news is not my idea of calling square dances. All right? My idea is dance is coming up tomorrow night. This is Wednesday. My dance is Thursday night. I'm going to spend an hour on Wednesday, sometime in that day, and I'm going to look at something that I can do with my Plus Club that they haven't done yet, or I haven't done. Or I might have to go back to something I did a long time ago and haven't, recycled or reissued. Frank dances in my club, right, Frank? Now, I practice what I preach, I think. Yeah.
Okay, Jerry, you want to add something to that?
I was going to do one more sequence with a square if I could.
Okay, let's take Jerry's question first. And then.
Mine's not a question, just a comment. Jerry Junk, Wayne, Nebraska. Mine's not a question, it's a comment to verify what Kip and Jerry are saying. I work in resorts in Arizona just like Jerry Justin does here. And I don't take an hour to prepare for my workshops, but we do 3 dances a day. So I have a morning workshop and an afternoon workshop, but I do take an hour every morning, 1/2 hour to prepare the morning workshop, 1/2 hour to prepare the afternoon. And I never vary that. When I get done with breakfast, that's what I do. So that when I get there, that workshop on Tuesday morning is different from the workshop on Friday morning. And I think anybody who really works at the craft has to do that. I think it's necessary.
Jerry, while we're setting up your squares, can we make a square for Jerry to show you one last thing before we pack it in? But one additional answer to your question about how do you prepare yourself, one wonderful exercise for a caller to do on paper is to set up a line, a standard two couples line facing the other two couples, and then go through the mainstream list, the entire list, and see what calls can you call legitimately from that setup. All of them. Make the whole list. And after you've discovered that you can do probably 40 or 45 calls at that point as the next call, go back through that list and check off the ones that are guaranteed dancer success. And you will learn a great deal about how you can use choreography much more in more varied ways than you think of. They don't come to you while you're calling unless you have done this kind of an exercise to help to get your thinking expanded.
Okay, and I want you to realize that I'm working with something that's real easy, and I would never do is all of this that I'm going to do. I'm giving you some ideas that you could use on an ongoing basis, and it's something that I found that we don't do anymore. We don't use enough of this. Okay, let's put some music on. I just want to dance you a little bit here with some of this. All right, here we go. Head ladies, chain 3/4. Side boy turner. Good. Half sashayer. Head boys pass through. Both turn right. Go around 3. They'll all move over. Lines up to the middle and you come right back or right or left through. Turn them. Head ladies, chain diagonally. Turn them. Sides diagonally. Do a right or left through. 8 to the middle and you come right back. You do pass through, wheel and deal. Double pass through. The leader's cloverleaf while the others wheel around. Should be home. Well, it would have been the other way, reverse, wheel, one or the other at that point. Okay, so now I've just taken a little thing like a chain, and I'll go on to this a little bit more like this now. I'd say, head ladies, chain to the left. You'd be surprised how many places can't do that, first of all. Now, and so I might have to work a long time just to get that. And I might use that every tip, start every tip, the whole evening with that, the whole evening long. 4 ladies chain, 3/4. And I'm going to use a little sequence now. Good. Can you unchain a quarter? I just wanted to chain straight across. Unchain a quarter. Just go to the next by to your right. So you should have. Thank you. I really didn't want 3/4. That was not the call. I would have said 4 ladies chain across is what I was really doing. Original head ladies chain to the right. 4 ladies chain across. Now, I've taken it a step farther. I would not have started off with another chain to opposite direction or whatever. I used the original girls, but we had another direction. And you're home. And that would have been just a little sequence to see if anybody really would have made it home. And we'd cheer a little bit about that. Okay.
Head ladies chain 3/4. Side man will turn her. Line of 3, go up to the middle and back. Touch a quarter. Side spread. Heads extend.
Should have been
Same sexes, couples circulate. Get them out, Jerry.
Well, we didn't know we were having a test.
No. What I want you to do is I'd like you to take that one figure and develop it. Because it's got a lot of trouble spots. Did you see it? Okay. Take that one figure and develop it. It's a neat little figure.
The spread part, if you realize, when they called spread, the other dancers were expected to step into the footprints. That was part of the spread call. He had to help them get in there because they didn't move. All right? Run home real quick again so I can go on with this a little bit more. Well, go back where you were then. No, go home. Say it's right. You don't remember where you were at that point. All right. And again, we're expanding this just a little bit farther at this point now. Head ladies chain 1/4. Side boy turner. Now you got to go back again to the original rule of chains. Now, if you're not given a direction, it's only those girls who are chaining. You cannot chain by yourself. There must be a minimum of 2 people in a chain, and it's always a right hand for that point. Side boys pass through. Oh, wait a minute. I meant the head boys. Both turn right. Run around 3. They'll all move over. Good. Pass through. Wheel and deal. Square through 3, girls. Boys, reach in, courtesy turn. Got a nice line. You got to know where everybody is at this point. Pass through. Wheel and deal. Square through 3 in the middle. Everybody pass through. Trade by. Slide through. Pass through with a wheel and deal. Double pass through. The leaders cloverleaf, the others wheel around. Those who wheeled around half sachet. Good. Now, head boys chain to the left. Should have all the boys in the side position and all the girls in the head position.
Lines of 7 or 9, forward and back.
Go back home. We should have all the girls in the head position, all the boys in the side position. I'm going to tell you right now. All right, wait a minute. First, and now this is extending it out of the realms of any kind of calling. I told you I was going to go to the other end of it. And I have used this at a dance, but I worked hard to get here. The heads are half sachet, and I asked the head boy to chain. You can only chain from a right side position, and it's a right hand. I give you that little hint. It's so the right, well, he puts to the right, to the left, and chains with that girl, and turns it that way at that point. Now, that's off the end of the realm, but I'm telling you that there's so much you can do. That's something I wouldn't touch, but it was a nice thing to see that nobody did it right. I mean here. I mean here. I don't mean for the dancers. We saw it here so that we know that that's not going to be a highly successful thing. Thank you, Square. Appreciate it.
We thank you for coming out to share this experience, and we're going to see if we can arrange with the tape service to cut off the last 3 minutes of this tape. Once again, we have demonstrated, we have talked about, we have urged you to plan carefully so that you thoroughly understand the material you're going to use. And sometimes remember that even though you've used it several times, it's good to think about it just before you start into it, because the traps along the path of choreographic development are fierce and may result in damage to your dancers. Always, the ultimate goal is the dancers should win and have a good time doing it. Thank you for coming out. We hope we've been helpful.